You and I have both known for quite some years now that woke does not make for very good entertainment. In fact, the exact opposite appears to be pretty much the rule, by and large, as even slam dunk successors guaranteed wins, like the first Lord of the Rings property in years, The Rings of Power, was an abject failure before the first frame was even put to film. And yet, it's kept going and going and going and going, burying countless franchises that have cost millions and billions to be produced, all flushed directly down the proverbial toilet. And, well, the reason for that is because the wheel of the mainstream turns oh so tortuously slowly, as it is revolved by, well, isolated investors and board directors who haven't put one foot outside of their marbled sanctums for the last 2 decades. These are people that rely on advisors and HR people and PR specialists to tell them what's popular with the kids right now. And for the last few years, the zeitgeist, the screaming hordes on Twitter and social media, heavily curated to see that it was indeed the case, was saying that it was social justice. It was wokeness. People wanted progressive entities, goddammit. And so the investors heard, okay, well, if that's what they want, that's what we'll give them. Because at the end of the day, for these people, it was all about the money. And when the ESG system also came into town, promising seemingly limitless funds of investment cash to any project that ticked the correct quantity of boxes, well, it was a no-brainer what to do. But with the worsening economic times, and with the woke and the SJW nonsense becoming essentially the established orthodoxy of our time, which is, as always, the waning power, of course, the word woke has finally reached the point of toxicity even to the mainstream. Now, to us, it's been absolute garbage for a decade and a half, probably. But to many people, like the normies, it's only been generally recognized as a negative word for 1 or 2 years, maybe? But now, it has penetrated the marble sanctums as well. So this is a rather interesting little article here from this perspective. It's covering the Dungeons & Dragons movie Honor Amongst Thieves, which I have very low expectations for, because it's a Dungeons & Dragons entity in the current year, but they mentioned something rather interesting. So, what was it here? In that vein, I was really struck in Honor Among Thieves that the lead female character, Michelle Rodriguez's Holga and Sophia Lil's Doric, are at the forefront of the action scenes, and the men are often hanging back. Now, this is, of course, Variety magazine, so they already have a rather overt left-wing bias, and they're ready to praise the film producer like this. Yes, yes, keep those dirty, filthy men in the back where they belong. And yet, then the dude says, that was not an attempt at wokeness on our part. You're sitting opposite a frothing progressive social justice warrior, and you feel the urge to point out that this was not an attempt at wokeness. Now, one can question whether or not it was or wasn't, as it goes on there. Daily, swear to God, it wasn't. We like that Holger's the bruiser that does the dirty work for Edgin, and he doesn't like to get his hands dirty. We also love emasculating leading men. There you go as well. And not for woke reasons, but because it's funny and fresh. Okay, here's the thing. They do have a point to a certain degree. The classical 80s action hero, for example, was often turned into a more effete version in 80s action parodies, which was super popular for a little time there, like Hot Shots, was it? That one is a funny movie, by the way. I think there's 2 of them. But that was a little bit of a thing, where they were like, okay, well, this is the stereotypical trope now, let's try and turn it on its head and see if we can make comedy out of it. So it's this weird situation when, on the one hand, they are purposefully emasculating the lead male character. Okay, well, that certainly seems like something the wokies would do, and yet they're also sitting there opposite somebody who would absolutely happily applaud them for doing that for wokies reasons, and they're saying, no, we didn't do it for woke at all. Almost as if the word woke has certain unfortunate connotations these days. There's another one too. So, This one popped up a few days ago, saying LEGO goes woke as new figures released with Down syndrome and missing limbs. And this is the positive woke, where it's like, oh, woke, it doesn't mean anything, those silly right-wingers are being crazy again. Since the entire article is, of course, universally positive about brown Legos and one-handed Legos, because, you know, if you're disabled, the thing you really want is to play with LEGO characters that are also disabled. It's like, oh, I'm missing a limb. I would love to play with a Lego that is also missing a limb because, well, that's my identity now. Anywho, that was the original title. It was very much so like an ironic one, like, woke, ha ha ha. No, there's no such thing, right? Those silly right-wingers. And then the editorial department came along, and this is the current version. LEGO release new figures. So it is still the exact same title, it's the exact same article, it is just as positive to this as before, but it's dumped the word woke. Once again, we're starting to see that the word itself has been recognized as a corrosive entity even by the mainstream. They know this will damage them. It's not because they're being afraid of being attacked for it. We've been doing that for years and it's had, well, it has actually had quite a lot of effect over time, but it doesn't affect them personally over much. But what does affect them is their public perception at large. And if the word woke has become so unpopular, so thoroughly poisonous, to the point where even just mentioning it will automatically ravage your entire newspaper, then, well, the editorial department comes along and just gets rid of that little problem. The article is still exactly the same. It still makes exactly the same point. It's still exactly as positive. It is just that one word that's missing. This, of course, also comes hot on the heels of rumours that a TV spin-off is being planned on Hogwarts Legacy. Now, I'm skeptical to that, because Hogwarts Legacy was only proven to be a success, like, you know, just really recently. There wouldn't have been enough time to enter into discussions to make a TV show based off it, and considering all the nuclear fallout that came out before it, and the fact that if Hogwarts Legacy had been bad, it would have been pilloried to no end, I doubt there were any plans preceding its success to make a TV show out of it. But just like the Warhammer and Henry Cavill thing, for example, there very well might be talks now going on behind the scenes, where the big money men are saying, this thing is selling like mad, whilst everything else is flopping. Okay, well, get aboard that train, because clearly we need to turn around. We've been heading in the wrong direction for a while now. And the best part is, Hogwarts Legacy can both be woke and hit the mainstream audience and us at the same time. That's what's so hilarious about it. Hogwarts Legacy is a thoroughly woke game. It is filled with all of the usual wokeist talking points. It's got the trans character, it's got the diversity, etc., but it's all skin deep. It is all thoroughly corporate. It is all near universally purely performative. And underneath all of that performative garbage lies a relatively solid role-playing game set in a fairly faithful Harry Potter universe. Which is pretty much what we've always wanted, honestly. You could strike the wokeist part out of it entirely, but let's be realistic here. And there's also the new Warner Bros. Lord of the Rings project, which is also in a very early kind of planning stagey phase, but right now, I am beginning to believe, in fact I've been believing for quite a while now, that the mainstream, Hollywood, the big money executives, they've been looking at what's been happening. And the Rings of Power in particular, I cannot overstate what a disaster that was for investors, and what a wake-up call that was. Like, the Amazon investors are up in arms on what they were promised to be a slam-dunk success, turning out to be a universal failure with assloads of negative PR from everyone with a mouth attached to them. And they are now looking at the non-woke stuff working out, and they're thinking to themselves, holy shit, okay, what if we dig a pinch deeper here? What if we go to current Twitter and we see what's happening? And they're thinking to themselves, oh wow, so people just want Lord of the Rings to be Lord of the Rings? Well shit, that's easier. That's actually simpler to produce. Then they look a little bit back in history. They look to the 90s and the early 2000s, and yeah, no, that was basically what was being produced back then. To thunderous accolades. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to put two and two together here, but Well, before we get too optimistic, we'll have to see where the Warner Brothers Lord of the Rings project does actually end up heading. It might as well have black elves as well, for all we know at the moment, but I am thoroughly convinced now that the mainstream, the powers that be, shall we say, have finally woken up to the fact that this is a bad word, and anything and everything connected to it is going to do a lot more damage to you than it's ever going to help you. The pendulum is swinging, and very, very soon it will transform into a guillotine. Let's just hope it only decapitates certain pro-choice targets, as, well, honestly, my biggest worry now is that we've pulled the damn thing back so far that the speed at which it will return will see a precipitous climb on the other end, but that's a worry for future, Arch. For now, I'm simply going to be happy at the fact that even in an article praising disabled Legos, the word woke is too fucking toxic. Do let me know what you think about it in the comment section down below, and as always, of course, share the video around if you've got friends and family interested in learning about what's going on in wokeism and how to not engage with it anymore. I've been Arch, thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Have a good day.